Does this change the calculus for you at all?
It doesn't. I wasn't surprised by the announcement that we saw today. A little surprised by the fact that it came when it did. But as fraud has been in the news, as you all have reported over the last number of years, but how it has absolutely exploded in the last couple of weeks where everyone is aware of fraud in Minnesota. To know that Governor Walz was planning on a third term was surprising, both when he announced in September, but to have pushed through, I wasn't surprised by the fact that he's changed his thoughts.
Why do you say you're surprised it came when it did? What do you mean?
I thought it would have come earlier,
Oh.
or I didn't think that he was actually going to run for a third term, but I just think the pressure over the last few weeks where everybody is talking about it, something that House Republicans have been talking about my entire time in the legislature, finally got the attention of Minnesotans that we've needed, and it's not new, it's just obvious now, and I was a little surprised by today.
Is there anyone in the Democratic field that sticks out to you as potentially a more intense competitor?
You know, I think that's interesting, and people have been speculating on names, and they've been asking, well, what if it's this person? What if it's this person? Really, the way I look at it is the Democrats, whoever that might be in 2026 that's on the ballot, there hasn't been a single Democrat that has either come against the fraud when it was happening or said anything negative about the spending of our $18 billion surplus or our high taxes that were raised or the fact that we're going to a deficit. So I really look at whoever the Democrats choose. This is just someone running for the Walz third term. I don't see a difference in it. The only difference you're going to see is a non-Democrat.
So a potential Klobuchar, for example, that doesn't change your calculus at all?
You know, I don't really think it does, because still the same fabric, the same Democrat that we've seen go through year after year and what's happened to the state. You know, she served in the Senate, which I understand is different, and I get that, but she's been a supporter of Governor Walz and his reelection and when he ran for VP, and all of these things, including fraud, have been happening at the same time. So I don't see that different.
To ask you as the speaker, not as a gubernatorial candidate, how is this going to impact the legislative session? How would it have impacted the legislative session had he been running for a third term, and now that's changed?
Yeah, you know, I think when we look at the fact that the governor, attorney general, secretary of state, state auditor, the entire House, the entire Senate is up for election this year or on the ballot, I think everyone is running for something unless they've announced that they've retired. But I think that whole feeling within the legislature has its own dynamic. The thing about it, though, is there's a lot of work that needs to be done for Minnesota, and we have proven in this last year with a tie in the House and Democrat-controlled Senate and a Democrat governor that we could work together and get things done, even though it took just one extra day to finish up our work. And I think Minnesotans deserve us working together. And so if we can put this aside while we're in the legislative session, but actually make definite changes to combat fraud and to end fraud in the state sooner rather than waiting till an election would be better for Minnesotans. That's the attitude that I'm going to come in to this next session. We come back February 17th. That's the attitude that I have, is let's end fraud, put in those safeguards, save the taxpayers from having their tax dollars stolen anymore. That's what I want to do this year.
Do you have anything positive to say about Walz's decision today? We've had a lot of people say that they respect his decision, that it's selfless. Some Republicans have said it's good for the state, that we can move past this. Do you have anything just positive that you want to say?
I do think, although it's, like I said, a little bit later than I would have expected, but surprised that it came today, I am grateful that he's made this decision. I think that's going to allow the state to move forward. He still has the rest of his term to do good things for Minnesota, and that is going to be up to him how he wants that to play out and what type of legacy at the end he'll leave with. But I'm grateful that he made this decision. And I think, as was referenced in his both his press conference, but the printed form of that too, is it does sound like he wants to put Minnesotans first.
Do you join any Republicans in thinking he should resign following today's announcement, or with any of the other stuff that's been happening?
Definitely the fact that he has already announced that he's not running for re-election is a good sign. So I think that's what we need to focus on, is the work left at hand, and we can do good things combating fraud maybe saving some dollars as we go forward and putting our state. We're not an automatic federal conformity state. So when you hear from Washington that there's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, we would have to conform to that. So there's some things we could do that are going to be better for Minnesotans in this next legislative session.
The governor referenced just, a lot of attacks he's been experiencing, and one of the things he's talked about just online is Trump's tweet over the weekend about Melissa Hortman. I wondered if you have any response to that.
Yeah, I would say that is not anything that I would have tweeted or retweeted. My working relationship with Melissa Hortman is something that I value, and I think the statement that you saw come from her children in response to that, it wasn't hateful, it wasn't attacking, it was explaining the grief that they're still in and then asking for something to be taken down. That attitude and that way of handing it in a very respectful way, I think was it was right.
Was the information in the president's social media remarks incorrect?
I did not watch any of that. I won't, but I don't believe that there's a conspiracy. I don't believe that Governor Walz was involved in that assassination at all. We know that there was a very unhinged person that horribly took the lives of two people and their dog, and changed forever the lives of the Hoffmans and our state overall. And so I don't believe Governor Walz was involved with that.
Quinn already asked about this, but I'm just wondering, in negotiations with, the governor, say you have something like the last session, which you will, does it change the calculus when you're at the table if you're not all running for the same seat?
I think I can really separate the work that I do, that when I am in that negotiating room, I am doing the best that I can for Minnesotans as Speaker of the House. And that's the attitude that I would bring in. That would be my expectation of anyone else at that negotiating table.
Just since we have you, as we are, like a month away from the legislative session here,
Yeah.
what's on your radar? Anything kind of sticking out as something you guys might tackle in the first week of the legislative
Yeah.
session? What could that look like?
So the OIG bill is something that went down at the end of the session because House Democrats blocked that. That's the Independent Office of Inspector General. That's a bill that the governor had said, pass the bill and get it on my desk. I want to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that that would be one of the first things that we see come forward. Again, watch for the first day of session. It's going to be different than anything that we've done before. And I think that's going to be an important way that we set the tone for the work ahead for the people of Minnesota.
Is that to say we should expect some sort of way to honor Melissa
Yes.
Hartman?
Really?
It's conversations that I've been in with Leader Stevenson. And so I would say just please watch for that.
Really quickly, so one more on topic. Obviously, Democrats are kind of getting into a sort of scramble here now with this late announcement from Walz, but Republicans also have a very, very crowded field. Do you feel confident that Republicans will be able to unite behind one candidate in time and potentially get the governor's office with
Yeah.
all of those people in the field?
Yes, I do think that you're going to kind of watch that field narrow a little bit. There is going to be shuffling. I'm more interested in seeing how things change with the Democrats. I'm very interested in seeing what changes with Governor Walz and his announcement today. If you look back to 2018 when changes were made, everything kind of shuffled. And so it'll be interesting to watch how that plays out.
Thanks for your time.
Anything
Appreciate
else?
it.
Yeah.
Thank you.